Good morning, everyone, on White Stone Sunday. This is our White Stone ceremony, and if this is the very first time, we'd want you to know that this ceremony that was devised by a Unity minister is based on scripture from the book of Revelation. It's Revelation 2:17. Let anyone who has an ear listen to what the Spirit is saying to the churches. To everyone who conquers, I will give some of the hidden manna, and I will give a white stone, and on the white stone is written a new name, and no one knows except the one who receives it. And I want to start out and share with you a very powerful story that I read many, many years ago in Spirituality and Health magazine. It begins like this. In 1996, I was transporting drugs and weapons for my gang, the Bloods, when I was pulled over by a state officer. I foolishly and violently unloaded a .38 caliber pistol into his chest. I was caught 3 months later and charged with attempted first-degree murder of a police officer. And at 16 years of age, I was sentenced to 68 years in prison. In prison, I encountered a large group of Bloods. They had heard of me and offered me great respect for my actions. I was happy to be looked up to, so happy that I lost concern for my prison sentence. But then in 1999, my mother passed away. I was so shocked by this that I secluded myself from everyone for almost 2 months. And then the oddest thing happened. The officer I had shot wrote me a letter. He said that he had heard of my misfortune and he offered his condolences. He told me that he was completely recovered from my assault and offered to speak on my behalf at a court reconsideration. I was shocked. Such compassion and forgiveness had never been shown to me before. And as I read the letter, I wept for the first time since I was a small child. 2 weeks later, my lawyer visited me and told me the judge would reconsider my sentence. I went back to court, and just as promised, the officer was there. He told the court that the incident had brought a unity and love to his family during and after his recovery that never had before previously existed. He said that he had no permanent damage other than scars, and he forgave me. He then asked the court to do the same. Well, the state's attorney went into a fit about how I must have sent people to threaten the officer and how there was more than meets the eye to his story. Well, the judge asked the officer if this were true, and he simply said, "Compassion, Your Honor, is what separates man from beast." Well, the judge reduced my sentence to 15 years and allowed the officer to shake my hand before I left the courtroom. I am scheduled to go home in 2006. I've quit the gang with great difficulty and begun my search for a compassion equal to that officer's. And I greatly look forward to the day when I may bless life as it has blessed me with love and compassion. So take us back to Revelation 2:17. Let anyone who has an ear listen to what the Spirit is saying to the churches. To everyone who conquers, I will give some of the hidden manna, and I will give a white stone, and on the white stone is written a new name that no one knows except the one who receives it. Now we've got two characters in our story that I shared, the gang member and the police officer. Now let me start with the gang member, but he went through a transformation, so I would just like to refer to him as our fella, okay, to keep it neutral. So for our fella, in what ways did he conquer? I invite you, as I pose these questions for reflection this morning, it would delight me no end as I'm watching this at home with you this morning. It would delight me no end for you to put your thoughts into the Facebook Live feed for me to see, okay? So for our fella, what ways did he conquer? What was his hidden manna? Now, manna is synonymous with food. Remember, in the Hebrew Bible, it was the manna during the 40 days in the wilderness that sustained the Israelites, okay? So what was his hidden manna, his hidden food? And what new name did he receive? Any thoughts there to type in? I'm going to give you just a second or two to think about that. Then I'm going to take us back to the police officer. In what ways did he conquer? What was his hidden manna? And what new name did he receive or step into? So as we're reflecting on our friends here in this story, again, to everyone who conquers, I will give some of the hidden manna, and I will give a white stone, and on the white stone is written a new name that no one knows except the one who receives it. To everyone who conquers. And what way did our friends conquer? Well, in my opinion, when I hear the word conquer, I think of this as an overcoming. We're striving to achieve a goal. It seems to me that both the police officer and our fella here achieved this higher level of grace through surrender. We sing the words, I surrender, I trust, and I know that as I surrender, I fall into the arms of love. And that's what seems to me to have happened with both of these characters. Our fellow, when he was in a prison surrendered with the death of his mother. Perhaps he had an overcoming. He does say that he left the gang with difficulty. So that would be, I guess, considered as well an overcoming. And the police officer seems to have surrendered in his healing process. He received this extra measure of grace. And every time I share this story, I sense that there is his physical healing, but also that there was a healing of relationships within his family. So what was his hidden manna, his hidden food? The police officer, his heart absolutely transformed through this incident into unparalleled compassion. And our fella here, he was open to receive. He received this gift of compassion from the police officer. And on the white stone is written a new name that no one knows except the one who receives it. So if you've not already done so and you're willing to put it in the Facebook Live feed, if you have any insight, what new name did each of them receive? I'll share with you the names I've given them. For the police officer, I give him the name Giver of Compassion. And for our fella, the Transformed One, or the Butterfly. Now, what we've done with this story is we've reflected backwards, okay? We've looked at what happened and said, well, these are the names that they would have had in the story. But what we're doing is we're looking forward into this upcoming year of what's being pulled out from us. And I want to say this, what we're doing is not setting a goal. This is not goal setting for 2021. We're not saying this year I want to be more patient, so I'm going to put patience as my white stone word and work on it. No. There's a more mystery to this. We are receiving the name from Spirit. And then we're going to be reflecting as the year goes on of how that new name plays out during the year. Now, you've either got a piece of paper this morning or a white stone. And I just invite you now just to take a minute and hold it in your hand, okay? And just hold it there. I will give you a white stone, and on the white stone is written a new name that no one knows except the one who receives it. Now, just a few moments, what we're going to do is we're going to spend a minute or so in the silence. And this is a time of listening, okay? And then after we come out of meditation, either on your stone or piece of paper, you're going to write down your word or phrase. And remember, if you have a white stone, you need to be writing on it with a pencil, okay? Then we invite you during the year to put your white stone word. You don't want to tuck it away. You want to have it in a place that you're going to at least see it from time to time so that you can reflect on it. So in the middle of July, you can say, how's that? What does that have to do right now with my life? Now, when we go into the silence, this is what may or may not happen. You might not hear anything. And as many years as I have done this, I'll tell you, just was a year, I didn't hear anything, okay? No worries. just be patient during the rest of the day. Next day or two, could be you're washing dishes and are doing something mindless, seemingly mindless, and you hear it come through at a different time. Now, more importantly, what if you hear something you don't like? There was a year that I received the word chaos. I didn't like that word. I didn't like it all year, okay? What if you get something that just sounds crazy? You think that must be in the middle of a dream. But what if it's porcupine, hummingbird? Write it down anyway, even if it doesn't seem to make sense. Trust it, trust it, trust it, trust it. Okay? So when you hear your word or words in the silence, just jot it down. So I'm going to invite us now to close our eyes and listen. Let anyone who has an ear listen to what the Spirit is saying to the churches. To everyone who conquers, I will give some of the hidden manna, and I will give a white stone, and on the white stone is written a new name that no one knows except the one who receives it. As we enter now into these moments of listening in the silence. And I bring us back now, and I invite you to write down your word or your phrase. And if you didn't hear anything, just continue to listen. And again, really encourage you to put that stone this year in a place where you'll see it. You can review it in the course of the year. And in closing this morning, I want to share with you what my White Stone Year word was for 2020 and how that played out for me. This time last year, the word that I got was sweetness. Well, Unity minister Eric Butterworth, his most famous book is Discover the Power Within You. Well, I say 2020 was the year for discover the sweetness within it. And I was called over and over to the aphorism, when life gives you lemons, make lemonade. I think we can agree 2020 gave us an abundance of lemons. So the lemonade meant I had to bring the sweetness into my life. So I want to reflect in closing this morning, part of this overall sweetness for me was the sweetness that you all of you brought to this ministry in 2020. First of all, give yourself all a big hug for your financial generosity this year. This was absolutely our best year ever financially. Things we were able to do: we were able to purchase a sound system for backyard services. We were able to have Daniel Namont and Eddie Watkins do virtual Sunday services that allowed your ministry team to take some days off. Did I mention the sound system for the backyard services? Stay tuned during the winter, because there's the possibility we could have a warm, pretty Sunday morning. That can happen. Doesn't always happen, but it can happen. And we may, at the last minute, call a backyard service, okay? Back to your generosity of spirit that was a sweetness this year. In the course of 2020, we served 3 Family Promise dinners. Those were to the homeless families that are in that transformational program. Then in November of this year, you stepped to the plate with your love, your generosity, your excitement for Harmony Family Center presence. And these, of course, on Christmas Day went to the foster children across the state of Tennessee. Then you hit the home run. The last home run of the season came when you generously supported the Youth of Unity Operation Teddy Bear fundraiser. And that is just some of the sweetness that you have brought to the Lemons of 2020. So I affirm that you give in love and you receive in abundance. So I'm going to close out now with another white stone legend that comes from the Cherokee tradition. One day, a Cherokee healing woman notices a white bird flying around her. So she puts up her hand, and the bird lights and lays a white egg in her hand. And the egg turns into a white stone that gives her the gift of healing. So we all now go forth into 2020 to discover the healing of our white stone word. Abundant blessings to all.